Hello guys, welcome to our first Booktube.
Okay, whenever you want.
It's already recording.
Sorry.
Hey guys, my name is Lu.
Hi, and I'm Fede. Welcome to our first Booktube.
Today we're talking about Eveline by
James Joyce.
Eveline is the story of a character, a woman whose desire is to escape but is trapped by the security of her current life. This leads her to the struggle of deciding whether to leave or stay. The story is presented through the eyes of the protagonist, Eveline, and told by a narrator who speaks on the third person and who is omniscient.
We are going to talk about the author,
The period,
setting,
time,
and characters. As a first step, we are presenting some facts about the author. Then you will see why. Most of his works are autobiographical, that is to say, based on his own life. Let's see some aspects that are reflected in this short story.
Any resemblance to Eveline is not pure coincidence.
James Joyce was born and raised in Ireland. When child, he and his family suffered the consequences of a gambler and abusive father who led them to poverty. He left Ireland and then he returned to see his mother who was dying. He met a girl named Nora, with whom he fell in love, and tried to persuade her to leave Ireland with him.
In connection to Eveline, the story happens in Ireland, so we can assume that she was born there. Besides, her father is an abusive man and she's afraid of him. They are poor, we can say this because of the houses of the neighborhood. They are red, new, and have bright roofs, and her own house is brown, which means that it is made of wood or mat. Then she meets Frank, and eventually he asks her to live with him. Eveline was first published in 1904 and then republished in 1914, so it belongs to modernism, and it resembles a lot of devices from such period.
Eveline is a modern story, period.
We can observe that the stream of consciousness device is used. This means that we as readers have access to the characters' minds. This is achieved by the use of free indirect style, which renders thought as reported speech in third person and past tense. This presupposes a dual voice, which means that the voices of the narrator and the character are fused.
In this story, we have fragmentation. In the first part, we can see Eveline sat by the window, just thinking while it's getting darker. Then, she is at the station about to escape with Frank. There is also limited focalization. It is only told what she perceives.
Another characteristic of modern fiction present in Eveline is an open ending. It is not explicitly said whether she stays or runs away.
She goes.
I think she stays.
No, she goes.
No doubt.
The story takes place in Ireland. This is not explicitly said, but we can infer it from the context. The fact that she was going to flee by ship, not by plane, gives us a clue of a distant time. We can observe also that there are objects present in the setting that trigger memories, reinforce her desire to escape, and make her doubt about
So
it.
we can say that physical sensation plays an important part in the story.
Yes, for example, she is sitting by the window and she sees the new red houses that the man from Belfast had built. These houses triggers the memory of the field that used to be there and how happy they were playing on it. She remembers that past happiness and realizes or convinces herself that she deserves to be happy now as well. Then she saw the photograph of the priest and she remembers that even he had fled, and she reaffirms the decision to leave.
Later on in the text, she hears the street organ and she remembers her mother and the promise she had made to her, and this makes her doubt about it. In the setting, we can also find some symbols. For example, the broken harmonium means that there was no music in her life, that it was a quiet, boring house. Then she meets Frank and he asked her to go to the theater. He used to sing and he told the stories. Frank was like music to her life. Then there is a figure of Blessed Margaret Mary Alacoque, which is an incredibly important symbol in the story. First of all, because she's a Catholic figure, and then because of the paralysis she suffered due to a rheumatic fever, like the paralysis Eveline suffered at the station.
We have more symbols of Catholicism in the story. For example, the photograph of the priest, and the guilt of breaking a promise, and the nun. Also, marriage seems to be important so as to be treated as a decent person.
This is shown in the passage that says, then she would be married, she, Eveline. People would treat her with respect then.
Another quotation that has to do with Catholicism says, she prayed to God to direct her, to show her what was her duty.
Taking into account that everything she sees, everything she hears, everything she smells trigger a memory, we can say this story is a tightly plot one, because everything happens because of a reason.
The story is told chronologically. Despite the fact that there are plenty of memories, these memories are presented in the way that Eveline remembers them. It is mostly real time. First she sees the evening invade the avenue, and she keeps thinking, and then it gets darker.
We have ellipses in that part going to the station. At one moment she sat by the window, and then she appears in the station, and she's about to leave with Frank. The point of attack of this story is in medias res. This means that the plot begins in the middle of the story, that is to say, when Eveline has grown up and she's deciding whether to stay or leave. In Eveline, we can observe a presentness of the past. That is to say that the past influences the present. She's so attached to the promise she had made to her mother that it is getting really difficult for her to take her decision.
Well, obviously, the protagonist of this short story is Eveline. She is implicitly self-characterized through her feelings, attitudes, or thoughts. As regards complexity, she's a daughter, a fiancée, she wants to leave and she wants to stay. So she's a real human being with struggles, so we can assume that she's a multidimensional character. In terms of change, Eveline is a dynamic character because first she was determined to leave, but then she wants to stay. There is also a moment of epiphany at the station which led her to take her final decision.
Sorry, what?
Epiphany. It's like a moment of enlightenment when someone realizes about something.
As regards Frank, it is easy to realize that he's a purely flat character. He's monodimensional and static. In fact, we don't have much information about him. Everything we know it through Eveline. We can say that he's her confidant because he's the one who encourages her to leave. Return to Eveline's father, it is important to bear in mind that part in the story in which she remembers that her father was not so bad then. And later on in the story, she remembers, or she thinks everything changes. So she thinks that her father has also changed. So he's a dynamic character. Besides, he's multidimensional because in a part of the story, she remembers that her father sometimes is very nice.
Although her mother is not alive at the moment of the story, it is important to say that she plays a major role. Eveline's mother is a flat character. She is monodimensional and she resembles the typical mother and housewife stereotype, and also she's static. We don't see her change throughout the story.
I bet she doesn't. This is not The Walking Dead.
We learn some things about her through Eveline and some other things we need to infer. For example, why made Eveline make such a promise?
Okay, that's all, folks.
Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. If you want to listen to an audiobook version of Eveline, please click on this link.
Please leave any comment you want so we can do it better next time. Bye
Bye.